clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. We are not live on your Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. You can also hit us on socials at Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy. I'm your host, and joining us today are some very, very special guests. And I say that pretty much every episode, but I do mean a little bit more extra today. Because not only do we have Cody O'Connor in the building, not only will we have Pat Boyle in the building, but we do have the 2024-2025 Picks Contest champion making his triumphant return to the podcast, Mark Shenloogian. What is up, Marky Mark?
Pete, it's great to be back. I've heard there's been a certain person on this podcast who shall remain nameless talking about trolls and having bad Wi-Fi, but what can I say? They got me out from under the bridge I was living under, and I'm here tonight.
As somebody once said during a halftime show, sometimes you got to pop out and show them. So Marky Mark is popping out, and he's ready to show them what he's got. We got a great docket full of basketball today. We also will touch a little baseball at the end of the show as well. But that's going to include MVP talk in the NBA, contenders on the east side and the west side. That'll obviously cross over with some of our favorite teams to talk about, including the New York Knicks. Cody O'Connor. Hey, buddy. What's up? How are you feeling today?
I am just curious to hear who Mark's talking about. I think we all are. I'm not one, Pete, to usually prep for the pod. But with our special guest today, I had to do a little listening to his hero, because they say study your opponents, right? And so I made sure to listen to the most recent Skip Bayless show episode with Stephen A. Smith. And I'm expecting a lot of the same here tonight.
Nothing better than when you're making a point in the group chat, and to back that point up, you send in a Skip Bayless tweet. That really gets the people going. And we'll figure out who we're talking about in a moment. But the first thing on the docket, I posted the video on my TikTok today on Subway Sports Talk, as well as Instagram and Twitter, the whole nine. This MVP conversation is becoming a bit convoluted, to say the least. It's becoming one of those things that happens almost about this time every single year, where there's a front runner, the odds say so, but now it's not fun or cool or exciting to say that SGA, who is now minus 475 on DraftKings, he shouldn't win the MVP. Well, Cody O'Connor stood on business, as Pat Boyle says, 10 toes down, that SGA should be the MVP, and it's not a question. Well, before we get into Eastern Conference contenders and Western Conference contenders, I feel like we need to have a conversation about this MVP race, if you will. Again, SGA, minus 475. Nikola Jokic, number 2, plus 310. And then it drops off. 50,000, plus 50,000. LeBron James, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The only 5 players that DraftKings will allow you to vote for. So that's where we are. And Cody made his case on the last podcast. So Mark Shenloogian, welcome back to the podcast. Are you thinking that this MVP race is set in stone, or do you think we still got more ball to see?
Pete, it pains me to say this as your 2024 NFL season picks champion.
Let them know.
Yeah, I need it to be said, Might as well start the firing shot. But I do think it is going to be won by SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, unfortunately to Cody's chagrin. I think there's a little bit of voter tiredness here with Nikola Jokic winning 3 out of the past 4 MVPs, even though you can make the case he's arguably having his best season statistically in the 2024-2025 season. Look, I know last year the Thunder were the number 1 seed and Jokic still won the MVP, but that was based on a tiebreaker. They both had the same record. This year, OKC has by far been the best team in the Western Conference, well deserving of that 1 seed. That all being said, you could still make the counter argument here that where would the Denver Nuggets be without Nikola Jokic? So as of right now in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets are 10 games out? 10, 12 games behind OKC. Cody's pointing an 11 behind
yep.
me.
Who's counting?
But I mean, that win the other night was super impressive off the back-to-back against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Jokic goes for 35, 18, and 8 after they lose the night before. And where was the front runner for MVP? Only 6 free throws in that one, Pete. The free throw merchant only had 6 in that game. And what happened? They lost by double digits. So, when he's not out there free throw baiting, jumping into Westbrook with his head looking at the opposing team's shot clock, you know what? Maybe he doesn't deserve to be the MVP. I don't know. His numbers are definitely there, but I mean, you could also point to the fact that Luka Doncic has better numbers than Shea has this year. He finished 3rd in the MVP last year, comparing 2024 Luka to 2025 SGA. I know where Cody sits. Pete, I think I know where you sit as well. Pat Boyle, if he ever gets off the toilet seat, maybe we'll find out where he sits.
Other than the toilet seat.
I believe you sit with SGA, right? Or are you on the Jokic side here?
Mark, I think you're jumping to conclusions here. I firmly am in the camp that Nikola Jokic is the most valuable player in the NBA.
100%.
I do, however, believe that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's case is incredibly strong. He has a phenomenal case. And I think one of the most ridiculous things that's happening right now that I haven't really heard many people bring up, the advanced metrics that people look at, like win shares is one that I look at a lot on Basketball Reference. I feel like it's just a guide as to who's playing well. It tends to check out pretty well. On that front, defensive metrics, they massively, massively favor bigs, centers who rebound, right? Right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the most defensive win shares in the NBA. And again, just to give like a description of how big that is, it's always been every year defensive win shares is Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, all the guys who average massive amounts of rebound, Jared Allen. Like these are the types of people that we're talking about here. And SGA is in that grouping. So that's one thing that I think makes this more interesting because he is a premier defender at his position. Like that changes the math and makes his argument a little bit better here. But overall, how do you argue against Nikola Jokic and what he's doing? I just don't hate the SGA case maybe as much as you do, Mark. So I think Jokic would be my pick if I had a pick, but I'm not going to cry here like I did with Joel Embiid for years because that one wasn't particularly close, in my opinion. I do find this one quite close, Cody.
Yeah, it's probably not as far off as I made it seem with that case the other night, but the fact of the matter is I want to say this first and foremost. Nikola Jokic is a better player than SGA. He's the best player in the NBA. He's been the best player for the last 4 or 5 years, and he is having an extraordinary year. And yeah, you're only looking at the 1 versus the 2 seed, but you are looking at an 11-game difference. You're looking at a guy who's 8, 9, and 3 against the top teams in the league in SGA versus like 3 and 7, 3 and 8 in Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. The free throw thing is just funny to me. You're not the only one with the case, Mark. I don't really understand it because, again, like he doesn't not foul bait. I'm not saying he's never doing it, but he's one of everybody who does it. And he does it less than I think a lot of the top guys do. He just drives more than anybody, so he's going to get fouls. Like he is going to go to the line. And so it's not that big of a portion of his scoring. It's something like 25%. I sent it in the chat the one day of the last, since 2000, there was like 12 seasons of 32 plus per game. And he ranks second last in free throw attempts in that stretch. So like, that's really not a case. You're not the only one with it, Mark. So that's why it's frustrating when I hear it. Cause I'm like, I see it online too, but it's such a big gap for him taking the youngest team in the league still to the 11 games above the second best team in the West in a loaded Western Conference on a roster that is better than Denver, on a roster that has been depleted with injury all year to key guys. Chet Holmgren's missed, 40% of the season? Isaiah Hartenstein about a quarter of the season. Alex Caruso's missed over a quarter of the season. You've had guys in and out. You've had one steady, and that's an SGA. And his plus minus is off the charts, like him on the court, off the court. I think Jokic's net rating's better, but the Thunder are historically great with him on the floor. Their net rating overall has been historically great. And again, 11 games in a loaded Western Conference, to be the clear-cut best player, to do it on both sides of the floor, steals and blocks. He's like, I think, the top guard in that category. I mean, it's nightly, and it's fun to watch at minimum. And to me, it's got to be awarded enough. And I'll give you the voter fatigue, but I've made the same case going into the NFL season with Josh Allen against Lamar. So it's not just my Shea Gilgeous-Alexander bias. To me, my opinion on the MVP, to repeat it, you have to go way far and about. Yes, Joker is. But if you're this close, typically tie goes to the guy who hasn't gotten it. And I think that's where we're maybe at, and even enough for SGA to have it over that.
I'm sorry. Did you just mention Alex Caruso missing a part of the season as contributing to SGA's MVP case?
Are you telling me that Alex Caruso doesn't bring enough value to mention the fact that he's been out about 35% of the season?
Bench player missing 35% of the season is supposed to contribute to his MVP case. That's where we're going with this.
He was the third name. You very conveniently didn't mention Chet Holmgren, and you didn't mention Isaiah Hartenstein.
Because
you went to the third guy that I named.
As I should, because he's irrelevant. And not as irrelevant as this guy, though. Way to show up tonight, Patrick.
Good deflection getting on the top because you were about to get buried.
Yeah, moving on real quick. What's up, Pat Boyle? Pat Boyle joins the show.
Boys, what's up? How are we doing? Am I late to the beat down here? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, Cody's actually already just got up from a standing 8, but that's really it.
Let me preface and circle this back for a second here and get Patty up to speed. So we're just on our first topic, so you're all good here. We're talking about the MVP. Mark laid out his case as to why he does not believe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should win, and it should be Nikola Jokic. And he surprisingly didn't disparage SGA as much as I thought he might. But he did bring up the free throws. He did bring up the supporting cast, and Cody just rebutted, and Mark re-rebutted. So that's where we are currently right now. But basically, the point to me that I find super interesting that I want to bring to the table here is all this talk and all these complaints going on in the NBA this season about how everyone plays the same. It's all just three-pointers. No one plays defense, and all these complaints about the league. It's complaint after complaint. To me, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic, to a different extent, are two players who absolutely do not play this same style of basketball that people seemingly complain about, right? SGA, and I think to Cody's credit, in our social media breakout earlier this on Wednesday, he mentioned Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and that puts up red flags for people. But from a stylistic standpoint, the way this guy gets to the elbow, the way he gets to the lane, the way he doesn't rely on shooting 11 three-pointers a game like some other stars in the league, like, isn't this what we want? Isn't this the style that we want for the differentiators? All these complainers, and I'm not talking about you right now, Mark, all these complainers about people just shoot threes and don't play defense. I miss the old days in the 2000s when the mid-range was beautiful. That is literally Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So from a stylistic standpoint, I'm actually surprised that people are now coming out 3/4 of the way through the season trying to dunk on this dude who's been incredible, who plays the exact style of basketball that people have been clamoring for. So to that, I don't really understand why, but also we are very predictable as a fan base. We're very predictable. If someone's at the top, you got to knock them down. Pat, where do you stand on this whole SGA MVP run?
Yeah, SGA is the MVP. I mean, it's pretty simple. Best player on the best team. Not only does he get it done in the pick and roll, not only does he get it done on the dribble penetration just to the rim by himself, not only does he get it done in ISO, he gets it done in post-up. And for anybody that wants to say, well, Jokic averages more rebounds, more assists per game, he's clearly just more valuable of a player than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. Okay, Jokic gets more rebounds, sure, double the rebounds. He gets more assists. Okay, great. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he gets more assists per game than a point guard, and he's a center. Like, nobody's denying the unicorn that is Nikola Jokic, but you look at just value. You look at what SGA has done for the Thunder this year, how he elevates every single player on that team, and how also he is the go-to guy in the clutch situations in the first quarter to get him started, in the fourth quarter to finish off a game, what he's able to do on the defensive side of the floor as well. Like, just because Jokic averages more rebounds and more assists doesn't make him more valuable than what SGA is to the Thunder. right? And I think as basketball fans, when we try to say who's the MVP and we just try to throw stats, or we then people that just try to throw the eye test, it's got to be a little bit of both as well, right? But for me, watching hoops this year, like the Thunder are a different team when SGA is off the floor. And that's not to say that the Thunder aren't when Jokic is off the floor. But to me, there is just such a, like, there's no bigger gap of what this guy does for his team night in and night out, the value that he brings, the points, the scoring that he brings, the defense that he brings. And yes, again, it's not 13 and 10 in terms of rebounds and assists per game like Jokic brings, but what SGA brings all around, on top of just the sheer historic offensive efficiency, to me, that's the end of the argument right there.
Wow, that's quite definitive. Mark, do you have anything to say about that?
Pat saying that SGA is more valuable to the Thunder than Jokic is more valuable to the Nuggets is about as wrong as the Giants selecting Daniel Jones with the 6th pick 7 years ago in the NFL draft. That is absolutely insane. Insane. And you could just, he went on, gave, a bunch of points to his credit about why SGA and what he's done this year. And yes, it's been super impressive. Completely agree. When he's on the floor, the Thunder are an absolutely fantastic team. Probably going to win close to 70 games this year. But I'll say it again. Pete, I know you agree with me. Where are the Nuggets without Nikola Jokic? Where? To Cody, and Cody wants to rebut, yet I'll point to his point about a week ago. Oh, Thunder's B team is playing the Trailblazers tonight. There's no way I'm not hammering them money line. And what do? They win by what, 30 points? I got to hear about Isaiah Joe one night. They got Hartenstein coming off the bench. I got to hear about Alex Caruso missing 35% of the season because he's so valuable that he also comes off the bench. They got the other Jalen Williams on the bench. Wiggins goes for 40 about a week or two ago. But yes, you're right. SGA is clearly more valuable to the Thunder.
They have 53 wins. It's an 11-game lead in the West. It's not like they're both around the same number. They have been leaps and bounds better than the rest. And let's not act like Joker's around him is so bad. Like, his supporting cast is so terrible. Jamal Murray's been really good for the last, 2.5, 3 months? Like, he looks like Jamal Murray again, what Russell Westbrook has provided. And Mark, that's our guy. Here we are. Maybe we're going to shake hands in kumbaya because Russell Westbrook has been unbelievable for Denver. And I wanted to see it. I hope to see it. I've never seen him defer to a guy the way he defers to Jokic, and that's, I think, a lot of credit to who Joker is. But the supporting cast around Denver is not so bad that they would just fall off a cliff when he's gone. They probably wouldn't be a playoff team, but OKC without SGA, what are they, a play-in team? I mean, you're kind of talking about a similar thing.
Yeah, in reality, they're probably a dozen wins worse, at least, without those guys, if not more. And if you start saying, oh, well, the Nuggets would be, 19 wins worse and the Thunder would be 16 wins worse, I think we're splitting hairs at that point. But I do think the point is there. And I'm also happy now that we saw the Thunder and Nuggets play against each other, and both of these guys kind of got their punches in, and they both kind of got their wins under their belt in that matchup. Because in years past, we've seen an MVP in Joel Embiid, ducking games against the Denver Nuggets. So at least this is a man's fight out here with SGA and Nikola Jokic, two guys who handle themselves super well. I know, Mark, what do you refer to SGA as? The Louis Vuitton Trae Young? Is that right?
The Louis Vuitton Trae Young, who should be working on Fifth Ave in New York City.
Uh-oh. He's at the free throw line right now. Somebody call the cops.
What a surprise. Is anyone surprised?
Nope. He leads the league in drives per game.
Yeah, so we're going to talk more about the Thunder and more about the Denver Nuggets as we get into the Western Conference contenders. But I do just think at the end of the day, we have to decide, not the four of us, but as a NBA collective, what does the MVP mean? What does it mean to be named the NBA's most valuable player? Because I feel like this debate has changed in the last 10 years, and it probably changed when your guy, Russell Westbrook, took a sorry team to a 6 seed and averaged a triple-double, even though James Harden should have won that MVP. But I digress. I'm just going to go. What?
That would be a whole different can of worms that I don't even want to open up. But Mark, I'll give you one.
I'll start singing "Kumbaya" with Cody right now.
Can I give you something
over Westbrook that year?
That Westbrook season to me is still more impressive than what I'm watching with SGA right now.
Absolutely, Cody. Every highlight, he's at the freaking free throw line. I'd be more impressed too.
I tried.
How did you equally make Cody your brother and your arch enemy in the same?
Pete, it's a special talent, my friend. You learn a lot when you live under a bridge with no Wi-Fi.
You're welcome for the Ethernet cable, by the way.
Yeah. No. Well, I think if you really have to boil it down to any one thing, the fact that Nikola Jokic resurrected Russell Westbrook's career, that might be MVP worthy in and of itself. Because this guy he's been sorry for years now. He's been not fitting with any of his teammates. Yeah, Washington, he made them into a play-in team. Who cares? This guy hasn't fit on an NBA roster in years. And all it took was the absolute best player on the planet to get this man in line and to use his talents in the right way. And I think, if I may, that is more impressive than whatever the heck SGA is doing with his amazing team out in Oklahoma City.
It is somewhat impressive.
I'm sorry, Cody. Can I just cut in 1 second? I got lost at the absolute beauty of what's on Pat Boyle's wrist right now. What was that, 18 karat gold? That watch of yours?
No, this watch is all of like $100.
It looks like $1 million though, Patrick.
Thank you.
Pat, do you have anything to add on this conversation?
Yeah, I just, where would the Nuggets be without Jokic? They would be so much worse. Like, that's not SGA's fault that the Thunder have built such a great team around him, but then he takes them to an entirely different level. Because if so, like, give Giannis the MVP. How bad are Milwaukee without him? I mean, they've played 12 games without him this year. If StatMuse is correct in my research that I did, they're 6-6. But their wins have basically been against non-playoff teams. They beat the Timberwolves without Giannis on February 2nd. Other than that, the Sixers, the Hornets, the Bulls, Wizards, and the Heat. Like, so, again, and when you watch what Giannis does for the Bucks and what he's done for the last 8 years, like, it's clear just how valuable he is. But that doesn't mean that he's the most valuable player in the NBA, because what you've done yourself, let alone what your team would be without you, like, has to matter. It has to matter. The fact that SGA has played all but 2 games this year, and the fact that he is outscoring the rest of the league outside of Giannis, everybody by at least basically 4 points per game, if not more, on top of the efficiency from 2, on top of not a 3-point shooter and still shooting the rock at 37% from deep. And yes, Mark, he gets to the free throw line 9 times a game because I would think you would be an SGA fan, because he doesn't just sit there and shoot threes like so much of the NBA has done. And we know you're an old school basketball fan. So the fact that the guy is aggressive and consistently drives to the cup and then gets fouled because he's such an elite scorer, that's not his fault.
Great points.
Can we stop with this theory that he's not a 3-point shooter? He's taking 6 a game. Let's not act like he's out there shooting 3 threes a game, please. He's not. He's shooting 6 a game, and he's done that about 3 of the past 4 years, which you want to compare him to Kobe and Jordan. Look, now I know Jordan's way back where they barely ever shot the 3, so he didn't really sniff 4 or 5 attempts a game. But Kobe only shot over about 5-6 attempts, maybe about 4 seasons out of his 20. So don't start telling me right now that a guy who's taking 6 per game in about 3 of his past 4 years is not jacking him up there either.
The amount
of acting like he's taking 2 a game.
The rate of 3-pointers taken in just the last 4 years has exploded. Anthony Edwards and Tatum take 10 threes a game. Curry takes 11. Donovan Mitchell takes 9. Hero takes 10. Like, he takes half the amount of threes per game as some of the other elite scorers in the game.
And out of the qualifying players in the NBA right now, he is 58th in 3 points attempted per game. So he's not taking that many threes, relative to, his co-stars in the NBA right now. But we have to move on. We have to move on to talk about the contenders, and I think that was a great way to start it, because these teams will come back into play. Because now we're sitting here as this season moves on, and there does seem to be a pretty clear-cut big 3 across the NBA. That would include the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Boston Celtics, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to start in the Western Conference, but I feel like we can all agree that that's the big 3 so far this season. And then right behind them would be the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, the New York Knicks, amongst a few others, which we can discuss now. But real quick, again, Pete Kennedy, Cody O'Connor, Pat Boyle, and Mark Shenloogian back on Subway Sports Talk. Hit us on socials at Subway Sports Talk and subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app. So when you start talking about the contenders here, we thought we were going to enter this situation where it was pretty clear cut who we were going to expect to see in the finals. However, as trades were made, as players moved on, we're now looking at a little bit of a different situation when it comes to the future of this NBA playoffs. So we're looking at, the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 175 to win the finals, but minus 130 to win the West. You have the Nuggets at plus 600, Lakers plus 650, Warriors plus 650, and then a little bit of a jump down to the Grizzlies, Clippers, Timberwolves, and Rockets. So as we sit here today, gentlemen, do we feel in this Western Conference that it truly is the Thunder's conference to lose? And how confident are we that they will make their way to the NBA Finals? And, Cody, I would start with you, but I feel like you're actually a pretty even-keeled fan, that you're not going to just be like, oh, my team's making it no matter what. So I'm going to let you sit on this for a second. And Mark Shenloogian, let's start with you. Who is your actual favorite, not based on the odds, your actual favorite to win the Western Conference?
Wow, I get to go first again. Pete, you must really be loving having me back today.
I just missed you, man. I missed you.
Me too. But these midnight start times you guys usually have, I can't do.
Fair enough.
So are we talking like who I want to see in the finals, who I think is going to make the finals, or who I'd like to see in the finals?
Let's go with who you trust most to actually make the finals out of the Western Conference.
Who do I trust the most to make the finals in the West?
Because it would be funny if you just say Thunder now.
It would be so funny if you just said Thunder.
Who do I like the most? Peter, I like the Golden State Warriors the most to make the NBA Finals out of the Western Conference. Look, I know Oklahoma City has been by far the best team on paper in the box score, as Cody always loves to tell me, box score Shen. But I still feel that they're unproven in the playoffs. They're still a super young team, as Cody will tell you. What the average age, I think, is around 23 years for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But look, it's not with much confidence that I say Golden State here. Yes, Kuminga's going to come back. A lot of this is predicated on if Jimmy Butler turns into a otherworldly player again come playoff time. Curry's been great with the addition of Butler. And, Draymond will turn up for the playoffs, as this seems to be the last ride for this Golden State team. But again, this is more so just from looking at some of the other teams. I don't feel Denver is as strong as they've been in recent years. I don't like the depth with the bench. This is not the days where they used to have Otto Porter coming off the bench and co. The Lakers, please, do I really need to talk about LeBron James? He's on his typical March hiatus with a groin injury. I can't take it. It's every March. It's right before the Instagram post where he's bitching about having to play 5 games in 6 nights. It's so typical. It's so Hollywood. It's just so him. He's probably calling up Stephen A, still complaining about him torching Bronny and all that stuff. But I digress. Grizzlies, I've never been the biggest fan of Morant. They've kind of tailed off a little bit from where they were earlier in the year. And the Houston Rockets are kind of unpredictable as well. So that brings me down to the 6-seed Warriors that I am going to roll with. Timberwolves took a step back, giving away talents to the Knicks. And as much as I would love to talk about Kawhi and the Clippers, because Pat Boyle knows I'm a big Kawhi guy, I just don't see it. So if you're asking me, I'm taking the Warriors.
I think Pete froze. I'm going to use this opportunity to – go ahead, Pete.
Am I back? I'm back. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said it right when the trade happened. I'm sticking to it here. I think the LA Lakers are primed for a run to the finals this year. And as much as Mark, that's the thing. If it's Lakers Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, who does Mark root for? Because we know he hates LeBron, but we know that he can't stand to have Cody be right. So that would be an interesting one. I think that would be the best Western Conference Finals to see Mark just squirm the whole time. But I think it's the Lakers. Again, we can break down the X's and the O's and get in depth if you want. But for me, it comes down to as simple as this. LeBron James has been a top 10 player in the NBA this year. And Luka is a top 3 player on the planet. So you put those two guys together on the same court, and it only took them a couple of games, as Mark also pointed out, to get this offense rolling here. A lot of people thought it would take weeks to gel. Again, we had the whole slander fest against Luka. Anybody that thought that Nico Harrison was anything but a stupid moron and a pathetic idiot for trading Luka for always damaged street clothes Anthony Davis. Found out pretty quickly just how quickly those guys can gel. So yeah, Austin Reeves is a great, like a third best scorer on this team. Hell yeah. Rui Hachimura has taken some leaps and bounds this year offensively at times. He's been inconsistent, but the Lakers defense has actually gotten better since Anthony Davis got traded. Go figure. I think it's the Lakers. I think LeBron, again, going to be out for a week, 2 weeks, maybe with this groin strain. That still gives them about 2-3 weeks to gel before the playoffs. Again, I'm gonna stick to my bet here and my prediction that the Lakers don't fall out of the top 3. And even if they do have to play the Thunder in the second round, Cody, I'm afraid it's going to be another second round exit for the Thunder. They've got as much talent as you could have. They've been the best team in the NBA this year. I know the Cavs have slightly better win percentage, but I still think it's OKC is the best team in the regular season. But unfortunately, it's another year of playoff experience. I still don't think they will have the experience needed to win a best of 7 because I don't think they'll be able to slow down the Lakers offense. And I do think that this Lakers defense has shown that their ceiling can be one that takes them to the finals. It's not that they're going to have to score 130, 135 points a night in the postseason and get 35-point triple-doubles from Luka and 28-point double-doubles from LeBron. I think the Lakers are going to continue to rise up and surge up even without LeBron. And when he comes back, I think he'll be rested. You'll get prime LeBron ready for a playoff run. And, again, after what he showed in the Olympics last year, LBJ at 40 years old still has it. And I think the Lakers are going to the finals this year at the expense of the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. I think the Lakers probably get the 3. I think they beat their nemesis, the Denver Nuggets, who they showed they can beat now. I think they beat them in 7 in the second round, and then they beat the Thunder in the conference finals. I got LA with LeBron and Luka going to the finals.
Cody, go ahead.
Oh, am I up? All right. Those are all fair points. Like I can live with all that. Even what our buddy Mark said. Like I don't disagree, especially with the fact that they are still unproven. That's exactly what they are. It's a big part of the hesitation. I haven't shied away from that, Pete. We've done this a lot this year. I've pointed out exactly who they were, exactly what I'm afraid of, and what makes me nervous about them. I've done that since October. I told you regular season juggernaut. It's really what they are. What it comes down to in the playoffs, what it looks like when they shorten that rotation has always been my question. And we haven't seen it. So I understand it's really hard to choose something you haven't seen. Even Boston last year still kind of got disrespected. And they've obviously made it much further in their past before winning than what Oklahoma City has done. Youngest team in the NBA, it does matter. But they do have the most talent. They do play wise above their years. And if they're healthy, they have the depth to make runs and they have the roster versatility to match up with kind of whoever they have. That's what adding Hartenstein did for them. I think that they took their scars last year and hopefully they learn from it, especially Jalen Williams as the second guy. And then you're questioning who's going to be the third guy. Is it going to be Chet? Is it going to be like Aaron Wiggins? I think the thing about them that makes me confident, they have 4 or 5 different guys who can end up being your third player on any given night. And it's going to be up to Mark Dagnall to kind of play that hot hand and figure out who it is. And there's one other thing that they do that I think championship teams do, and I've seen it all year. And it's no matter the score, no matter the game, they can hit you with a 15-0 burst, and they do it all the time. And it always starts on the defensive side of the ball. So their game is predicated on that side of the ball. It's causing turnovers, wreaking havoc. It's when you hold the ball, the pressure comes, and it's hard to get out of. They're going to have really tough matchups. I think there's 4 teams other than them that I'm nervous about and that I could see winning. It's Minnesota at the bottom, but they still scare me enough with Ant because I think they match up well, and I've seen it before. And that team was just in the conference finals, and they're rolling a lot more than people realize. Golden State is next. They've got the pedigree. Steph scares the living hell out of me, and he always will. I'll always hear Mike Breen's double bang in my head before I go to sleep some nights. When he hit that against them in 16, and then they come back from the 3-1 nightmares. And then, of course, it's your top 2. LA, Denver. I have it in that order. So Denver, to me, is the number 1 contender. And again, something I brought up, I don't know, January maybe, I said that they were the biggest threat to Oklahoma City, and that was before their run. All those teams have guys. I mean, they have legit guys. And the reason I leave Memphis and Houston off, because I don't trust that they can close out games in series, albeit they are talented. Houston's a year away, and Memphis just doesn't scare me with who they have to close out games. What their big 3 looks like compared to others, it's just not much of a contest.
What I find really interesting about the way we talk about the playoffs so frequently is when you start getting to the upper echelon, you can very easily start washing out the best of the best, right? So Jokic and SGA wash each other out. Steph and Luka wash each other out. Ja and I don't even know who the Rockets' true number one is, but you get the point. You can take those number ones and you can wash them out. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, what I think this is going to come down to, and it's funny, we brought this guy up in a joking manner about the MVP before we started recording. It's going to come down to Jalen Williams. And that's because I trust SGA to be SGA in the playoffs. I really do. I think the shot making is good enough. I think his energy, his defense, his playmaking, it's all so high up there, high tier, that I trust it through and through. But last year, their biggest downfall was partially that they didn't have a reliable scorer outside of SGA. And if you look around the rest of these contenders, you know what LeBron and Luka can both do in the playoffs. You know what Steph and Jimmy Butler can both do in the playoffs. And believe it or not, with the way Jamal Murray's playing, we know what Jamal Murray can do in the playoffs. This dude is a serious playoff riser. He shows up in these moments, and we've seen him do it in a championship. So that, to me, really swings this for me. Like, I'll be happy to see Jalen Williams show up and hit shots and drive and be that secondary creator and offensive force for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But until he does it, it's going to be hard to expect it. And he hasn't done it on the biggest stages yet. He hasn't done some of those marquee performances that Jaylen Brown was pulling off last year in the playoffs. Like, even, Donovan Mitchell is their number one, but back when he wasn't a true number one, you saw him show up and drop 45. Like, Jalen Williams hasn't reached that echelon yet, and all those other number twos have. Like, if there's a game where Golden State is just getting swallowed up, or I should say Steph Curry is getting swallowed up, you can see Jimmy Butler getting to the free throw line 16 times and scoring 35 points, right? You can see, obviously, if Luka is just passing the rock, LeBron can drop 40 still to this day. And Jamal Murray, even though he's not an all-star by name, he's not an all-NBA player by name, he still carries that much weight for me when it comes to the playoffs. So I'm thinking the Denver Nuggets right now, off the back of the best player on the planet, but also off the back of Jamal Murray, who's getting into form, and Michael Porter Jr., who's probably playing the best basketball of his entire life very quietly. And then it comes down to Aaron Gordon, because if he's healthy, they're actually even better. He's been into that lineup so much. So I think the Nuggets are sneakily being slept on just a little bit because some of their numbers aren't as impressive, but they're there all year long. Nikola Jokic is that good, and Jamal Murray's hitting stride at the absolute right time.
4 different teams from 4 different men.
Yeah, and I didn't expect it to be that way. I got to say, with the Golden State Warriors, I've watched them a handful of times with Jimmy Butler since the trade, and the simplest things that he does has added so much to this team that I was not taking them serious even when the trade was made. And now watching them a handful of times since then, I'm seeing it, and I hate it. I hate that I'm seeing it because I'm like, dude, they're seriously about to get back to a finals. But the way that offense functions and the way all the other pieces are starting to fall into place because of what Jimmy brings is making a massive difference. And we talked about this on Tuesday's pod, me, Pat, and Cody, with like the starting rotations and the bullpens in baseball, where it's like, oh, Edwin Diaz is out for the year. That messes up the 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, and 9th inning. That's how that works. That's how that, domino effect happens. With the NBA, it's the same concept. Like, you replace Andrew Wiggins with Jimmy Butler, and that's made Moses Moody better. That's made, Kevon Looney's impact more important. That's made their entire operation more seamless. And I'm not happy about it. If I'm being honest, I'm like, this team, seriously, and maybe it's because they just crushed the Knicks last time they played, but they just were operating at this echelon where I did not expect them to be able to get to again. And kind of same thing with the Lakers defense. They've moved some things around, and maybe it's coaching. I don't know exactly what it is. JJ Redick's getting a lot of credit, but things are falling into place at the perfect time for everyone. And the Thunder are just staying at the same plane they've been on the whole time. And what other gear do they have? All these other teams have another gear, and I'm not sure the Thunder do. No thoughts? That's it? That's what we got on the Western Conference?
No, you guys laid it out right. I mean, like I said, this team is young and unproven, so there's every reason to be skeptical about them. but they have done, in my opinion, everything they could possibly do in this 2-year stretch when they've had a legit chance to try to ease your mind or to try to get you onto their side. But they aren't proven. So, like, people don't like to bet on what they haven't seen.
Yeah,
I will just
very
add,
true.
Cody, I think if the seeds that are current right now, if they stay the same, like if we're looking at Grizzlies Rockets round 1, Cody, I think you would be praying for a Rockets win in round 1 for the Rockets to take out the Grizzlies. Again, assuming the Thunder don't collapse and lose to whoever the 8th seed is, which Minnesota could give them a good fight. Clippers maybe give them a good fight if Kawhi can stay healthy. Hold your breath on that. But like Grizzlies Thunder round 2, man, to me, I'd be on the edge of my seat every game just because of how fast Memphis plays. Like if they get hot shooting wise, and OKC, no, Oklahoma City doesn't play at too fast of a pace, but if they get beat, the Thunder love to play in transition at times too. They love to play fast when it suits them. But the grit, like nobody plays faster than Memphis. So like if they get beat at a track meet for 7 games. That's a scary round 2 situation that I would be definitely afraid of if I were you.
If they lost to Memphis, I'd be hitting the panic button. Like if their season ends to Memphis, I'd be like, whoa, like what the hell happened? And it's not disrespect to Memphis. It's just, I just don't think that they have the guys to close them out. So if Memphis is a team that's going to put them over the top and put them out, then the season ended very disappointing. There's something went wrong. Maybe somebody got hurt. But if it's just a healthy team, I'm not really one to like show overconfidence, but I'd be very confident that they would beat Memphis in 6 or less.
And Mark, last question before we move on, because I know you obviously explained some of your thoughts on LeBron James before, but now with this Lakers unit with Luka Doncic and LeBron James together, how shocked would you be if they actually did make a run to the finals? Would you be as shocked as you're leading on, or would you just be more pissed? I'm trying to figure that out.
Who are they getting through on this?
So they're beating
finals?
at least 2 of the 3, Denver, Golden State, and OKC. They're beating 2 of the 3.
Would I be? Wait, you're asking me if I'd be surprised?
Yeah, like basically because you said you had the most faith in Golden State, but obviously you said you weren't super confident. Like maybe just rank the rest of your confidence rankings. I don't know how you want to do it, but I'm curious if you have faith in what the Lakers are doing.
For sure. No, I've got zero faith in what the Lakers are doing.
There you go.
Zero whatsoever. I'm supposed to trust what? Mr. 4-6 in the finals at age 40, 41 off a groin injury. In a month, it will probably be his ankle. His contact will probably get stuck in his eye on a 3-point shot in June, and they'll blame somebody else. But Doris Burke will report that he's able to see just fine. So, like, it's one thing after another with him. Do I think J.J. Redick has proven to be an excellent coach so far in this league? Absolutely. He's handled the hot seat really well with the Lakers. I mean, he's got them at 40 and 23. Doncic has made an NBA Finals. He played really well last year, but then the clamps came down with Jaylen Brown, who absolutely owned him again last week. But I would have to pick if Pat did bring up before, if it was OKC against the Lakers. Pete, I'm going with the Louis Vuitton Trae Young. 11 times out of 10. 11 times out of 10. I think they're a better team than the Lakers, and they'll have home court. And but look, that's not to say that it won't be interesting. I still am on the record saying at one point in these playoffs, the Oklahoma City Thunder will be down 2-1 on the road with both SGA and the head coach whining about the lack of free throws for their star man.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because at least as of a couple weeks ago, you could stat check me. Oklahoma City is 28th in free throw attempts per game. They're 29th in free throws allowed per game. So they don't have a friendly whistle like our friend likes to bring up.
But will they complain, though? Because everyone complains. That's kind of
they probably would, but it doesn't make the point, right? Like, dude, everyone does that because the next game they get better calls. Like, it's kind of smart coaching. Like, you've seen coaches call out the referees. So, like,
well, how about your coach Mark Dagnall with his little auto sub situation? Did you guys see this? against the Denver Nuggets to try to combat Jokic starting the fast break off out-of-bounds plays too quickly. He was keeping somebody from his bench at the scorer's table, so every time there was a whistle, the refs had to check if he was subbing in or not. I mean, kind of a crazy move, but also pretty smart. Like I've never seen that before.
It's no Jason Kidd, having a water knocked out of his hand, but
water.
it's a good strategy. I respect him trying it.
That was wild.
Pete, it's not something you'd expect from a 1 seed in a conference, to be honest. I think it's kind of Bush League.
Yeah, especially in game like 64 of the year, right? Like, come on. What are we doing?
What is he? Is he afraid of the MVP inbounding the ball so fast for the Nuggets? Is that what he's afraid of?
Mike Malone did come out with some strong stance on Jokic being the MVP, which they've done like zero Jokic MVP bait over the past 5 years where he could have been in the running there. And Mike Malone with a strong stance saying, like, if you don't think this guy's the MVP, I don't know what to tell you. I'm pretty sure there was an expletive in there as well. But all right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference so we can let Mark go to bed soon. We have the East is a little bit different with the setup currently than the Western Conference, where it's a little more top heavy at the Eastern Conference side. You have the Boston Celtics minus 115 and the Cavs at plus 210. So you have those two more favored teams. And then you jump down plus 700 at the Knicks and another big jump, $1,500, 3,000 Pacers and 11,000 for the Detroit Pistons. And that's kind of everybody that I think is even worth bringing up at this point in time. Whereas obviously with the West, we had, probably 2 or 3 other teams that were worth bringing up with the Clippers and Timberwolves, Rockets, and whatever. So the East still goes through Boston, I say, with a question mark. Is that where we're all basing on right now? Does the Eastern Conference still roll through the Boston Celtics, Mark?
110%, Pete. Not even a question. Look, this is a little different than out West where, look, I know that, the Cavs have a sizable lead on the Celtics, same way the Thunder do out West, but Boston is the defending champ. They are proven. Tatum and Brown, it feels like they've been playing in at least the Eastern Conference Finals every year since their rookie or second season. And, I mean, look, it's after them. You looked at Drew Holiday, you looked at Derek White, Porzingis is going to be back at some point. You got Pritchard throwing up 40 points off the bench. I haven't even mentioned Al Horford yet. I haven't mentioned Sam Hauser's three-point shooting yet. Boston is loaded. And it's not a matter of, like, if they're going to get to the finals. It's a matter of just how many games it's going to take them to get there. They're going to get the necessary 12 wins to get there. It's not a question. It's not a doubt. I look at tonight where they're playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, Cody's team, and that fraudulent MVP candidate. And the Oklahoma City currently have a 4-point lead, right? The Boston Celtics have taken 39 shots. 30 of them have been from the three-point line.
Jesus.
And they're 12 for 30 from the three-point line. Thunder is shooting 57% from the field right now. And the Thunder only have a 4-point lead. Boston is leaps and bounds better than everybody else in the NBA solely because they take advantage of the three-point shot, and they'll take as many as they want. Their confidence is unshaken. They might take 60 tonight, but they'll make enough to get that to where they will eventually win the game. They can just outslug you.
Pat, do you feel as confidently that the East runs through Boston 110%?
I do. I've seen them too many games, even when they fall behind, where they rarely get off to slow starts. But even on the nights that they do, they can make a 15-point deficit evaporate in the span of 3 minutes, just because, again, Tatum goes ISO or Tatum goes pick and roll with Porzingis when he's playing, or Jaylen Brown gets a catch and shoot. It doesn't even shoot that many threes. Derek White gets a catch and shoot three, and it's going in. It's going like there have too many stretches where they just do not miss. And then on top of it, their size and length defensively, where I felt like they got knocked last year. For anybody that thought that maybe Indiana had a chance against them in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then anybody that thought that Dallas's size and physicality and the fact that they had Luka and Kyrie playing the best ball of their lives, they were going to get through them, and Boston just swept everybody aside. They're the same team as last year, if not better. I mean, like Mark said, Peyton Pritchard is probably going to be the sixth man of the year. His contributions off the bench. I can't believe he threw Sam Hauser's name on the podcast. I don't know how much he paid you, Mark, to include him. But look, Cleveland's been absolutely phenomenal, and I love Kenny Atkinson. I still have a lot of love for him because he got dogged by the worst owner and the worst GM in the NBA a couple of years ago in the Brooklyn Nets. And I love that he's 55-10 and having a phenomenal year. Darius Garland has stepped up. Like, he is playing. He is the 1A finally that they've needed him to be this year. Evan Mobley is a tremendous two-way player. And they've got shot makers left and right. And let's not forget that they added at the trade deadline as well, right? Getting DeAndre Hunter. So Cleveland's good. They just can't match up with Boston in a best of 7, right? And I know, well, what about when they were down 25-3 and then they still won the game? Okay, when you have to play the same team 7 nights in a row and it's on equal rest, and you can assume that Boston will be mostly healthy, Cleveland will be mostly healthy, they just, not that they don't stand a chance, but man, like I would be stunned if it's anybody but the Boston Celtics coming out of the East again. And yes, I've just went through a 2-minute answer and I did not bring up my New York Knicks. I love them. The Knicks need everybody to be 100% healthy, and the Knicks need that's probably all they need, right? Because I think that they would have a shot if that's the case. I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. They have gotten eviscerated in the pick and roll game this year. When Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson are both on the floor at the same time, which the Knicks need because that's who they needed to be. They needed to try to copy the Celtics in some way and be that, have their offensive ceiling, raised as high as possible, be able to knock down threes. But also, they haven't gotten there enough defensively. Mikal Bridges has been a total stiff, a total dud this year, a bona fide scrub, right? To quote Stephen A. Smith, he has just been an absolute failure of an acquisition. And, again, when OG and Josh are doing what they do, when OG's locking down 1 through 5 and Josh is leading the charge in transition and grabbing 13 rebounds a game, yeah, the Knicks can be competitive. They can be competitive with the Celtics and with the Cavs. Despite what the regular season has shown, they just do not stay healthy over the last 2-3 years. I don't have much confidence that the entire team will be healthy. And again, if they get Boston in round 2, maybe they send it 6 just because there's 2 nights where they're the classic Knicks defensive intensity and the Celtics have off shooting nights. I got zero to little faith that the Knicks are getting through the Celtics. I think the best case scenario is that the Knicks and Bucks swap. Knicks play Cleveland in the second round, assuming they get through Indiana or Detroit or whoever they play in the first round. And then they can outslug Cleveland in a best of 7. But it's almost impossible at this point that Cleveland's given up that 1 seed. And the Knicks are still 5 games better than Milwaukee. So, unfortunately, it does look like it's Knicks-Celtics second round, and I don't give them much of a shot. The Bucks are a lost cause, right? I mean, you need Dame to turn back the clock 6-7 years and hit 7 threes a game in the playoffs for them to have a chance to beat Boston or Cleveland. It's not happening. So, to me, it's a 2-pony race. It's Boston. And then, like I said, if the Knicks could get Cleveland in the second round, they have a shot to eliminate them. But most likely it's Boston, Cleveland, Eastern Conference Finals, and the Celtics are winning in 6 or less.
Yeah, to me, it's like a 2.5 maybe. And I'll put the Knicks as like a half a contender right now. And I still have them, but I'm as worried as you because as Mitch came back, my thought was, all right, a month or so left of the regular season. We need to see how this works. They need time to play together and see how it gels. And now you're going to have another week plus without Jalen Brunson, and it just keeps happening. So my faith was kind of staying up here. It has been kind of knocked down a peg and a peg and a peg. But I still have them in there because of what you said. If they can be healthy, there is that chance that they still have a puncher's chance at this point. But it is Cleveland and Boston. And it is just Boston. It was a little more contentious on the Western Conference, as I think it should be. And I'll say this as a Thunder fan. OKC minus 130 to win the West, and Boston's minus 115 to win the East. That just looks like a misprint to me. We named 4 different teams, and I think we even had a 5th, if you guys will welcome in Minnesota to the bunch, and even Memphis to the bunch as teams who can win out West. We've mentioned Cleveland and a half a Knicks, and I don't give Milwaukee any chance because they look like hell. Yes, Giannis is unbelievable and usually best type of player. I give them a chance. I don't really give them much of a chance. They just don't have it around them. Their defensive play is horrible. Any guard is going to snack on them. I don't think that they can get through Cleveland, New York. I just don't see it. Even Indiana would give them problems, and Indiana can only maybe give them problems. I don't think they can give either of the top 2. So it's Boston to me and then everybody else. And just as a gambler, looking at those 2 lines, I'd take Boston minus 115 in a heartbeat well before I took OKC at minus 130. But that's also because I have OKC at plus 240 riding from the beginning of the season. So I don't have to take the minus 130.
What I find interesting about the odds there is that I think Boston's only minus 115 because the sports books are truly giving Cleveland a great chance. And I think that's what we've downplayed so far, because my give and take with Cleveland this entire year is, as I watch them and right after I watch them, I say to myself, no, this team's a true top echelon title contender. They can beat Boston. They can beat Oklahoma City. They can beat anyone out west. And that is what I see with my own two eyes when I watch them play basketball. But then I don't watch them play for a couple days. And I'm like, they really going to beat Boston? Boston does it every year. And I feel like it's not scientific. It doesn't make sense. And maybe we just have to see them do it in the playoffs to actually get there. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, maybe there's a reason why Boston's only minus 115 and not minus 175, minus 190 range, because Cleveland's that freaking good. And I do think there's one really important part of this. Donovan Mitchell is not afraid of them. Donovan Mitchell's not scared of Drew Holiday and Derek White. He's not scared of Jaylen Brown. He is going balls to the wall, full throttle on them all the time. And yeah, the New York Knicks went with the approach of, we'll get in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges to stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Well, maybe the actual way to stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is to have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, two incredible rim protectors, two incredible interior defenders who can also help out on switches, who are not liabilities when they get out an island out of the top of the key. Obviously, Evan Mobley, even better out there than Jared Allen, but that defense does work. It does make sense. So I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are a serious threat. I expect that to be a 7-game series. And I don't know if I'm willing to put my money on it right now because it's only plus 210 for Cleveland to get to the finals right now. But I absolutely think that though it goes through Boston, Cleveland is absolutely here to give them a absolute run for their money. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to get there. I'm ready for Boston not to make another freaking finals this year. And I think Cleveland is the absolute most likely cause. And it's a lot closer than we want to say it is. As far as the Knicks and the Bucks, and I'll throw the Pistons in there, they unfortunately are the types of teams who are just going to be really hard to beat, but they're not going to beat Boston or Cleveland. And it sucks. The Knicks, I think, have the best chance to beat Cleveland and maybe no chance or the smallest chance to beat Boston right now. But the Knicks, Milwaukee, and Detroit, they will be extremely difficult, all for different reasons. Bucks, just because Giannis is that freaking good. The Knicks, because their offense is really good and maybe the defense is getting better, which, over the last 5 games has rated out extremely well with Mitchell Robinson so far. And the Detroit Pistons are insanely tough, play insanely hard defense. And Cade Cunningham, I believe, will have multiple games this playoffs where we go, oh shit, he really has it like that. Cade Cunningham is a bona fide star. He's going to drop 40 on somebody in the playoffs. And a lot of people who've never watched the Pistons once this entire season are going to go, oh, wow, that guy I saw a few TikToks about really is that good? Yeah, he's that good. So, yeah, they're great teams. They're just not nearly great enough to beat those guys. But I'm putting Boston as my number 1, and I'm willing to say Cleveland's 1A or 1B. I don't think they're 2. I think they're 1B. I think they're that close.
Pete, I do love what Chauncey Billups has done with that Pistons team. It's been remarkable.
That's a Shaq reference for anyone who didn't get it out there.
Thank you.
Shaq thought Chauncey Billups was the coach.
Can I ask a quick question? The way I look at it is, would you be willing to put your money on Cleveland in a series against Boston? Like, that's where I'm at. I love this Cleveland team. I've been talking about it all year, but I see them in a matchup against one another. I don't think I could put my hard-earned money on Cleveland.
Yeah, would you do that, Pete? Because I don't buy it. I don't believe you really think Cleveland can beat Boston.
I'm willing to bet that it's going 7. Like, I'm willing to, if the over-under is probably going to be 5.5, it'll be 5.5 and it'll be minus like 180. I'll take the alt for it to go 7. I mean, I'll probably just take the exact result of Boston in 7 at that point. But I truly think this is like a mano-a-mano matchup where it's going to be tight and a long series and a hard-fought series. I'm not willing to take the Cleveland Cavaliers at plus 200. If it was plus 350 for them to win it, I would throw a shekel on it. But if it's like, if the odds aren't really looking that phenomenal, I'm probably not. So you're right. You're right to call me out on that front. But I firmly would bet on them to go 7 against Boston.
Well, think about what that series price would be. What do you think the series price is between the Celtics and the Cavaliers? Because you're probably getting the Cavs are plus 210 to win the entire conference right now. If it's Boston, Cleveland, Eastern Conference Finals, the Cavs are probably 1 plus 170, plus 160.
Yeah. Not good enough.
I would have said 150.
It's not exciting enough, I guess, for someone who we all collectively feel like we don't trust that they can do it, right? But I think the odds are telling us that they can do it. Am I wrong?
Fuck the odds. How about that?
Shen, what do you think? You've been quiet for a minute. The Cavs, you give them any shot, puncher shot?
No.
There you go. There you have it. All right, guys. Good show.
No. I'm not afraid of Donovan fucking Mitchell. Freaking break. What the hell's he done in the playoffs? Oh, he's not afraid of Tatum. He's not afraid of Brown. He's not afraid of him. I don't care. I don't care if he's not afraid of him. He's going to lose to him. Doesn't matter to me. And if he doesn't show up, what I'm supposed to rely on? Darius Garland? Donovan Mitchell, I can make the argument right now, is the third best player on the floor in that series.
Yeah, you know what? You could make that argument.
You could make that argument.
I mean, this regular season, you couldn't make that argument because Donovan Mitchell's definitely been better than Jaylen Brown this year. But in a playoff series, I think you can make that argument. Can you make an argument for any other team in the league that they have their second best player is better than Jaylen Brown? Is that
yes?
Which team
Cam
is that?
Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh my god!
Pat, tell him who has the legitimate.
It's definitely not big body Brunson. I'll tell you that. I said it the other day. That guy's about as durable as the big baller Brand. You know, the Triple B. I wish he was more like. You'll appreciate this one, Cody. I wish he was more like Berkman, Bagwell, and Biggio. That kind of durability.
I just got to shut Mark down. Real quick because
it's getting late.
Yeah, also because what has Donovan Mitchell done in the playoffs lately? I don't know. He averaged 32 points per game against the Celtics last year and shot 50% from deep. Without him, forget about a sweep.
Do they win?
Do they win? That series would have been over in 3 games. Let alone when he did the bubble with Jamal Murray, where they're dropping 60-point games back and forth on one another. The guy has averaged over 30 points in a playoff series 3 times already. So
they win?
No, Mark.
Hiding behind
They didn't win. So I guess
They didn't win. So there you go. They didn't win. Flamed out in Utah, and it'll again underperform in these playoffs as well. You know, the best thing, and if you let me just get this in, we will be pointing to that Jason Tatum meme where he's telling them to get the fuck out of here again in June because it's going to be with Cleveland going home. They stand no chance against the Boston Celtics in a playoff series. 0. I will start 0-10 in the picks next season voluntarily if the Cavs beat them.
Clip that.
We're clipping that. That's got to happen. Wow.
Just make him take 10 straight picks. That would be way worse for him.
Yeah.
And that's a great call, Cody. Anyone who followed our picks this year, I don't know what's more of a lock, the Celtics making the finals or Mark hitting the over on legs on any given week of picks. 9 legs on 3 picks is out of control. Real quick, we're going to leave now. Last thoughts here on the New York Knicks. I don't know where everyone's confidence meter started at, but on a scale of 1 to 10, and we're just going to play we're going to play the game of them actually just competing at a high level because I think all of us will sit here and not pick them to beat the Boston Celtics and probably not pick them to beat Cleveland. But for them to even compete and go 6, go 7, and like kind of lose with their heads held high, I know it's a loser mentality question here, but where is our confidence scale at now with the injuries, with where they are? And we'll make this one quick because we're going to wrap up here. But where are we right now at the Knicks confidence meter heading to the playoffs?
I think it's more likely the Knicks lose in the first round than beat either Boston or Cleveland. It breaks my heart to say that because I just don't believe that this team will be fully healthy. It's something that I feel like I'm normally a glass half full kind of fan. With most of my teams, I'm very glass half empty when it comes to Knicks availability and durability in the postseason this year. Just feels like even if they start the postseason healthy, somebody will get hurt. And maybe that's a cop-out answer, but I've seen it too many times over just the last 2 years since this championship, I guess you could say a championship window kind of opened here for the Knicks. So I need to see this team get fully healthy through 1 postseason series, let alone 2. but I do think that there is a chance that the Knicks could, if they get Detroit in the first round, if they get Indiana in the first round, who already beat them last year, and the Pacers don't look like the same they don't look like the track meet Pacers from last year who hit a bunch of threes. They've lost that kind of mojo, but it wouldn't surprise me if they get it back just in time to beat the Knicks in a 7-game series again in the first round, or if the Pistons, behind Cade Cunningham averaging 35 points per game, beat the Knicks either. I don't have a lot of confidence, and I'd love to be wrong.
Call me crazy, but would you not maybe rather see Indiana than Detroit in round one? With Detroit being that young, not afraid, don't know the moment quite yet type of team, and Cade Cunningham being who he is?
I disagree. I think Indiana's got the postseason experience. They have the belief that they can beat the Knicks. I do think the inexperience would ultimately probably get the Knicks over the hump against Detroit, but I guess it wouldn't totally shock. It really does depend. Is it just one guy? Is it just, Mitch maybe gets re-injured for the Knicks? Is it just Cat has to miss 2 games out of a 6 or 7 game series? Or is it like last year where they literally had guys going on gurneys, in that series with Indiana? So it really depends on that for me. And then maybe that's a bad answer, but that's all I can give you.
I have never seen such little confidence in a team that's going to win 50 games in my life. And I can't stand the New York Knicks. Can't stand them. But you are absolutely crazy if you think they're losing in the first round. Insane. Not happening. To Detroit? No. And I think that they're actually, the Knicks are a supremely talented team that are underperforming with the talent that they have on the team. Yes, they have 40 wins, but I still think they could be playing so much better basketball than what they have. I just think they haven't really found the right way to play with the starting 5 that they have.
Defensively, for sure.
Because they've been getting smashed every time they play, Boston, Oklahoma City, or Cleveland. And if you looked at the team where, you have Brunson, Towns, Anunoby, Bridges, and Hart, that's probably one of the best starting 5s in the NBA. And if you look at it from 1 through 5, I know, Pat, you say if Brunson gets hurt. Well, maybe if Brunson gets hurt, Bridges goes back to being that 30-point scorer with capability that he was on the Nets. You don't know. So that's why I don't think they'll lose in the first round, even if somebody does get injured. But their problem is going to be the second round when they probably don't get past Boston or Cleveland in more than 5 games.
Yeah.
Unless they somewhere take that next step out of nowhere, chemistry-wise, or they figure out more a style that better suits them. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident in them winning the first round. I think people saying now all of a sudden they're scared of Detroit is a little bit too strong for me, and I'm probably one of the bigger Detroit guys that people know around here. Right? I'm watching Detroit. I'm watching Cade Cunningham. I'm standing for him as much as humanly possible. I think he's been my pick for breakout player since he got drafted. And the Knicks are just better in every facet. I mean, except for defense, obviously. Right now, the Pistons' defense is really freaking good, but the Knicks are just better in every facet. I'm more scared of Indiana for sure. The Pacers know how to play the Knicks, and they have thorns in the Knicks side. I'm done watching Nembhard rip threes against the Knicks like he's freaking Ray Allen, and Aaron Nesmith going off, and all of a sudden Tyrese Halliburton gets his swagger back for half the series. So that they scare me more than the Pistons, but honestly not scared of either in the first round. I think it just would be a longer series than Knicks fans would be comfortable with, but the Knicks would come out on top of that. My confidence to go deep in a playoff series against Boston or Cleveland is about a 3.5 right now. It's a 3.5. It's there enough to where I think it's possible, but I'm not ready to bet on it. I'm not ready to commit to it, and I'm definitely not standing 10 toes down like Patty Boyle standing on business right now. So that's where I'm at. Cody, last words, then we're going to say goodbye.
Mikal Bridges turns it around, that's your chance. If he becomes the guy that they traded for, there's your chance. But without him, with him taking 6 shots in 45 minutes the other night in an overtime loss, then they won't have any chance against those top-tier teams.
Yeah, and Josh Hart making a joking comment about how they're number 2 in defense since in the last 5 games. He goes, oh, Brunson's been out, which is hysterical, but also possibly true. Because Deuce McBride is a dog, man. Jeez Louise. I got to see what these rotations look like, too. How much is Deuce playing? He got to play 30 minutes, I think. He might be that good. He might be that freaking good.
Too inconsistent for me. I love Deuce.
He's too inconsistent offensively.
Can't
But he
keep having
brings something
nights.
to their
Can't keep having
defense.
nights where he's 1 for 9 from the field.
That's a good point.
Well,
But
McHale's
defensively-
opening the door for him, right? He said, "Hey, coach, you're playing me too much."
Yeah, he
That's
did.
the problem.
Oh,
I'm
man.
taking Deuce McBride to score first tonight.
Hell yeah. All right,
Plus 950.
gentlemen, appreciate you greatly. Pat Boyle, thank you, brother, from the other city on the East Coast right now. Cody O'Connor, thank you as always. And Mark, welcome back to the podcast airwaves of Subway
Great to be
Sports
back,
Talk.
Pete. Great
Yeah.
to be back. Never felt so loved in my life.
I should have went through and like screen grabbed a bunch of our greatest hits in the group chat and just read them out here for everybody to hear it. But
You still
know,
can.
I didn't bring up Juju Watkins. That's for the next episode.
She's laughable. Laughable.
She's
so inefficient. Inefficient, ball hog. Can't come up in the clutch when you need it.
All right, we're going. Subway Sports Talk, that's all we got. Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube, socials at Subway Sports Talk. We will talk to you guys soon. And cheers.